Hello everybody, welcome to Totally Tabled. My name is Shaggy, and today I'm running down my top 10 medium weight solo board games. This is the third in a series, starting with my top 10 simple solo games video, and continuing with my top 10 next step solo games video. Please go check those out if you haven't, I'll have the links in the description below. This video has been sponsored by Worldspanner Factions, a new game currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. Worldspanner Factions is a streamlined successor to the cult classic Duel of Ages 2. In this unique tactical adventure game, two teams of heroes drawn from different time periods, genres, and universes, past, present, and future, compete to earn the most glory in the Worldspanner arena. You can play in a team-based competitive mode with anywhere from 2 to 8 players, but other modes are also available, including a solo-friendly cooperative mode against an AI opponent, as well as a co-op and solo campaign. If any of this sounds interesting, please go check out their Kickstarter campaign. It ends on November 22nd, so this is their final week of funding. The link is in the description below. My number 10 is Viticulture. Viticulture is a worker placement game all about making delicious wine. You get to plant a variety of different types of grapes, harvest them, craft your wine, whether it's red, white, blush, or even champagne. You can age your wine in your cellars, having it increase in quality round after round until you decide to sell it for money and victory points. You can also build different buildings to improve your winery, letting you earn money and victory points in new ways. I prefer to play with the Tuscany expansion board, where the action spots are stretched over 4 seasons, which adds this satisfying timing element to the worker placement. And the solo mode is super easy and quick to run, with a simple flip of a card. All the actions in this game make thematic sense, so I find this one so easy to learn and teach, and fairly quick to play. That's why it's my number 10, Viticulture. My number 9 is Star Wars Outer Rim. This is a pick up and deliver game set in the Star Wars universe, full of characters and locations you are sure to recognize. I typically don't like pick up and deliver as a mechanism, but I just have so much fun flying around in my spaceship, traveling from planet to planet, picking up jobs and new crew members, earning money, upgrading my ship, all while being careful to manage my reputation with all the different factions. I might have this multi-level quest that I go on, full of skill checks resolved by dice rolls. I might even engage in some ship-to-ship combat. It's all a glorious adventure, and I highly recommend adding the Unfinished Business expansion after you've played the game a few times. That really elevates the game by injecting it with extra theme and story by giving you an epic life mission to accomplish. Just be aware that it does increase the complexity for a game that is already pushing the upper limit of what I would consider medium weight, especially when you play solo. I recommend you check out my full playthrough just to make sure that this game isn't too heavy for you. But that's my number 9, Star Wars Outer Rim. Number 8 is Warp's Edge. Warp's Edge is a solo-only bag builder, which is like a deck building game except you add tokens to a bag instead of cards into a deck. You'll go up against a fleet of minion ships and one of several different motherships with unique special abilities. When you either defeat or evade an enemy ship, you get to place a new token into your bag, slowly building up an arsenal of firepower and special actions. And those actions are different depending on which ship you choose to play. So there's just so much variety in this little box. I really enjoy that if you assign a token to a minion ship, it can't attack you even if you don't destroy it. That works so well, and it creates so many great decisions. It's just such a satisfying, addictive gaming loop, and it really captures the spirit of an epic space battle. Unlike Outer Rim, this one is on the easier side of medium weight, but I think there's just enough complexity for it to belong on this list. Again, check out my playthrough to see for sure. But that's my number 8, Warp's Edge. Number 7 is The Bloody Inn. The Bloody Inn does dark humor better than any other board game I've played. The gorgeous and unsettling artwork transports you to this macabre hotel where you murder your guests to steal their money. The card play here is so clever. You must spin these character cards from your hand to take actions, unless the character on the card is proficient in that action, in which case you get to keep the card in your hand. This means you must bribe the right characters at the right time to help you in your dark pursuits. Each potential victim is also a potential accomplice, as well as a potential building that gives you a permanent special ability. I love that you end up wanting to recruit, build, and kill every single card. And when you play solo, the tension really ratchets up because you'll instantly lose if the police catch you with unburied bodies lying around. This is one of the most cleverly designed card games I've ever played, and that's why The Bloody Inn is my number 7. Number 6 is Concordia with the Solitaria expansion. This expansion transforms Concordia into a fantastic solo experience by replacing the main deck of action cards with matching cards that also have actions on them for your solo opponent. So you're still playing the same exact game as base Concordia, using cards from your hand to move people and ships, spread out, build buildings, buy and trade resources. You still acquire new cards into your hand with even better actions. These cards then add to the multipliers for your in-game scoring, which is genius. And you still have that card that you must play in order to retrieve all the other cards that you've already played so you can play them again. I always love that mechanism. So everything's exactly the same. The only difference is now, using the Solitaria expansion, your solo opponent will also take an action, which is just written on the card you played. It creates this additional layer to your decision making. It's honestly one of the most elegant solo systems ever developed. And best of all, it works on all the different Concordia maps, making this an essential expansion to one of the best medium-weight Euro games ever made. It's a true classic that's Concordia. Number 5 is 51st State Ultimate Edition. I'm specifically pointing out the Ultimate Edition because it comes with a fantastic new solo mode, the Borgo Automa, that finally makes this great card game worth playing solitaire. The solo game feels much more like you're playing against an actual opponent. You can check out my full playthrough to see it in action. In 51st State, you're just taking these simple little actions over and over again in order to play a card or gain some resources, convert resources into points, etc. And you're building up this tableau of cards, some of which are giving you, production at the beginning of each round, some that give you special abilities, and others that give you extra actions that you can take. Turns are always super quick, and the new Borgo Automa manages to preserve this flow by having turns that are equally as simple and quick to run, while also feeling appropriately confrontational. The Automa works for most of the expansion decks, and Borgo even has different special abilities depending on which deck you use, giving the solo game as much replayability as the multiplayer game. This is easily one of my favorite medium weight card games. That's why it's my number 5, 51st State Ultimate Edition. Number 4 is Pandemic Iberia. Pandemic Iberia has the same brilliant pandemic core that we see in almost every version of the game. You add infection tokens into cities when you draw its card from the deck, but when you draw an epidemic card, you shuffle the discard pile and place it back on top of the deck. This is brilliant and thematic because it means cities that were infected previously will be infected again, which can lead to outbreaks and losing the game. Of all the many iterations on the pandemic system, Iberia is my favorite because, well, for one, I prefer the historical setting, but I also like all the little simple rules twists, which just add a lot to the strategic depth. Do you build out the railroad to increase your mobility in the future? Do you take the time to drop water behind to deal with future infections? These are great thematic decisions. If I can only own one pandemic game, this would be it. My number 4, Pandemic Iberia. Number 3 is The Loop. The Loop is a puzzly, fully cooperative deck building game where the players take the role of time agents with unique special abilities tasked with stopping the evil Dr. Foe from spreading clones throughout history. The star of the show is Dr. Foe's Time Machine, which is a simple cube tower that randomly distributes time rifts to 3 adjacent eras on the board. It's a gimmick that works by adding tactile, silly fun as well as real tension. It perfectly sums up the contradictory nature of this game. Underneath its colorful illustrations and irreverent theme is a smart design that offers comborific card play. If you're clever, you can loop your cards, reactivating them, which can lead to my favorite thing in all of board gaming, the Mega Turn, where you use abilities on top of abilities to pull off insane actions. The loop leverages medium complexity rules better than almost any cooperative game I can think of. That's why it's my number 3, the loop. Number 2 is Final Girl. Final Girl is a solo-only card and dice-driven survival game that lets you experience whatever horror trope you desire, from classic slasher films to stranger sci-fi and fantasy themes. This game nails horror better than any other solo board game I've played. Every scenario box has a different location, villain, and a couple of final girls, all with unique rules and special abilities. I love this because you can pick and choose the stories that most appeal to you, and you don't have to add everything. In Final Girl, you're playing cards and activating them by rolling dice to see how well you accomplish the action on the card. As you use these cards, they go back into a display and must be reacquired at the end of your turn by spending time. Time is sort of the main resource of the game, and you often use it to take actions. So the more actions you take on a turn, the less cards you're going to be able to get for the next turn. There's plenty of luck in rolling the dice to activate your action cards, but the cinematic story the game tells makes every bad roll as satisfying as the good ones. That's number 2, Final Girl. And my number 1 medium weight solo game is the Castles of Burgundy Special Edition. The Castles of Burgundy is one of my favorite 2-player games, and now, thanks to the new Special Edition Deluxe reprint, there's a terrific solo mode, with a solo opponent run by a small deck of cards. This is happening a lot. As companies reprint older games, they've been adding new and improved solo modes. In fact, we've talked about 51st State and Concordia on this list alone. The Castles of Burgundy is a classic tile-laying game, where you use dice to take actions. You can draft tiles from numbered depots, then place those tiles onto your duchy board, adjacent to previously placed tiles, completing areas for points. Each tile has a special ability that triggers when you place it, and I just love puzzling out how to use my 2 dice most efficiently each turn. Placing down your tiles and filling up large regions to score big points is super satisfying. The Castles of Burgundy is the first title I think of when I think of a medium weight game. The dice actions and tile laying are very simple and straightforward, but there are enough different special actions associated with the tiles to up the complexity just above that next level. When you add in the rules for the solo opponent, then this definitely becomes a game for players with a little bit of experience under their belt. So there you have it. It's my number 1 medium weight solo game, The Castles of Burgundy. What are some of your favorite medium weight solo games? Please let me know in the comments below, and while you're at it, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.